All right, everyone, welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ryan Phipps, and it is my current mission to mentor driven young adults to a successful future by using fitness as the gateway. And today, what I want to talk about here specifically is how to lose body fat for good while eating foods that you love. And to kind of articulate this specific example, I want to give you a story. I want to tell you a story of a time when I actually gained body fat on purpose. So at this point, I was working as a personal trainer. I understood how to lose body fat, but I had never personally done it. I personally learned best through experience, and I wanted to actually do it through experience. So I gained fat on purpose. And at this point, I was actually still working out. I really just made my nutrition that much worse. Again, I was training the same amount in both of these kind of states that I was in. Just again, the main difference was my nutrition at this point, and I was eating specifically to gain fat on purpose. So the result of that was that I was able to lose most of the fat I gained in less than 4 months without cutting carbs completely, without cutting out my favorite foods. And I did learn how to lose fat and how to keep it off. And that's what I'll be teaching you here today specifically. So I can't stress enough that this is for anyone. This is absolutely for anyone. And the real main example that I want to use here to articulate this is my man Sam. So when Sam first joined the program, he was working out, but he wasn't actually seeing results. He was hungry for more knowledge. He was hungry for knowledge on how to make this transformation sustainable. He actually had gotten lean before, but wasn't taught how to properly maintain that state for himself. So Sam had also mentioned that losing weight was harder for him than gaining it. So, we all know our individual body types, and potentially if you're watching this video, you might be one of those people that has a hard time losing weight, but a relatively easy time gaining it. Everybody's body is different, but Sam is, one of those people who was in that scenario prior to joining the program. And after going through the program, his physical presence absolutely reflected his effort and dedication to seeing results. He said that he had learned things that he will use for the rest of his life in terms of making this sustainable. And Sam was able to make an insane transformation, even though weight loss was harder for him. So, again, I can't articulate and stress enough that this is absolutely for everyone, even if you feel like it is, quote unquote, always been harder for you to lose weight. And the next example is going to be Dylan. So this is a weight chart of a hardworking athlete in the program, Dylan. So Dylan was able to lose over 10 pounds of fat in under 4 weeks. And he actually is eating more food than he was when he joined the program. We did not completely eliminate his carbs. We did not completely eliminate his favorite foods. It is just coming from that understanding of nutrition, really that next level, more than just calories, more than just basically trying to starve ourselves while doing a ton of exercise. That does not work, guys. This is a prime example of that. And again, that's why Dylan is absolutely crushing it right now, way lower than this currently, actually. And also eating more food. That really is something that I think should, be prioritized, especially in weight loss, in fat loss, is the ability to lose weight, see results while eating more food, because an unsustainable approach just isn't sustainable, obviously. If we're feeling hungry, if we're always starving, if we're always having cravings, it's just a matter of time until we kind of go off the deep end with that. So now I want to talk about three things that guarantee you will not succeed on your fat loss journey. So these are three very common things that people do that are keeping them from actually seeing results. And before we do that, I want to briefly talk about metabolism. So one thing to really understand, especially in the context of fat loss, is our bodies are very smart. And what that means specifically is our metabolisms get used to how much we eat. So our metabolism gets used to how much we're eating. And that's why it's very hard to make a change. Roughly speaking, our body, we program it to eat roughly the same thing every day in a caloric sense. So, that's why it's such a conscious effort to actually make that chop to eat a little bit less, so to speak. That's why it's so difficult, because our body's used to it and our minds are used to it. And really, the main thing that takes place here is a process called metabolic adaptation. And really, all this means is that your body will adapt to the level of food that you're eating on your fat loss journey. So, even if it's quote unquote working, you will hit a plateau. And, this really explains, without getting too deep into it yet, exactly why sometimes, we feel motivated, like, okay, I'm going to cut everything out. And maybe we do it for a couple weeks or a week and we see the scale drop and like, great, that's working. And then just stops all of a sudden. So, progress doesn't just stop, our metabolisms just adapt. And this is just a fact that, I want everybody watching this to be very conscious of, because this is, again, one of the biggest reasons why so many of the approaches we're about to go over do not work. And the first reason why so many of us fail on our fat loss journeys is because we heard someone say something like, just eat less and move more. And basically, what we take this as, and basically what we start doing, is we just do excessive cardio while starving ourselves. We take eat less and move more as how little can I eat, well, kind of prioritizing how much exercise can I do. And guys, this is the fastest path to being skinny fat, to being frustrated, to wasting your time, and to developing a belief that I can't lose weight, that this doesn't work for me. And assuming that the goal is to get lean, so to, retain lean muscle, minimize body fat, and kind of build that lean physique that I think a lot of us, do truly desire, eat less and move more is actually horrible advice. It's so broad, and again, so many of us kind of just run it into the ground with starving ourselves and doing a ton of cardio. So I will cover how to flip this into specific actionable steps that equal results. But moving on to reason number 2 why we fail on our fat loss journey so often is because we completely eliminate all of our favorite foods. Maybe we get super motivated, we're able to do this for a little while, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it might be, and we see the scale drop, but cravings always win. So we kind of get stuck in this cycle of we feel motivated, we start, we see a small success, cravings creep up, so we binge, then we feel defeated just to restart in 3 to 4 weeks, whatever it might be. Whatever the season's changing, we're like, this is the year, this is the school year, this is the summer, this is whatever it might be. But we kind of are stuck in the cycle without realizing the cycle that we're stuck in. And the problem here really isn't you. This is just unsustainable. It's just unsustainable to say, hey, like, this is your favorite food, never eat this again. I don't know about you, but I absolutely will have Chick-fil-A and cheesecake again in my lifetime. And I know for a fact that I can fit it into my quote unquote nutrition approach, and it will not affect me negatively whatsoever. And that really is going to be the goal for all of us, is to find an approach that is sustainable, to that actually incorporates our favorite food instead of eliminating them, so we can really just escape this cycle for good and maintain the state that we want to be in. And guys, even if we quote unquote succeed with this approach, we will never keep it off. Some of us actually do have that mental power, mental ability to just completely restrict our favorite foods for X amount of time, let's say 3 or 4 months here, and then okay, I have my goal physique and I go back to eating like quote unquote normal, we're just going to gain it all back. We don't at that point know how to make it sustainable. And one of my kind of favorite quotes about this specifically is, everybody wants abs, but let's just pretend, we're given a set of abs. A lot of people don't know how to maintain them. We would lose them right away. And the biggest reason there is because we think we can't, eat things that we actually enjoy. And, what that means is, again, once those cravings win, we're just going to binge like crazy, get stuck back in the cycle just to repeat at some point. So moving on to reason number 3 is just we are full of false beliefs. We see so many things, generally media driven, like carbs are bad, my genetics are bad, the scale is everything. I can't eat salads for the rest of my life, so this isn't for me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, really what this just means here specifically is, we take a lot of things like we see, on TikTok, for example, as kind of like, the Bible of how to do this. And a lot of it is very context dependent. With carbs specifically, there's a huge difference between, the magazines we see at the grocery store when we were younger, shopping with our parents, saying, stay away from bread. And, carbs for a young adult really actually training, a version of us that wants to sit on the couch and lose weight, and a version of us that's willing to get up, go to the gym, make it happen. Two different things completely. One of us, the active version of us is going to utilize carbs extremely well. Whereas the other one of us that might, potentially be sedentary if we were older, wouldn't utilize carbs as well, because that's a primary fuel source, especially when we're training. So, we can't take that advice without actually kind of building context within what we're doing. Genetics specifically is a lot of the time, we don't actually know what our initial genetics are going to be until we start training, until we start dieting. That's when really we can see. And most of the time, myself included, I just have average genetics. It just means, I need to put in an above average amount of work if I want, quote unquote, an above average physique. And, definitely having a solid approach to do that is very helpful. As far as the scale goes, really teaching people how to read that specifically is something that I'm very big on. When we're technically, or actually, in our quote unquote fat loss journey, and we're referencing the scale consistently, it can be super demotivating to think we did everything right, have a really solid day of eating and training, and then we jump on the scale the next morning and it's actually up a pound, and it's like, well, this isn't working, so I'm going to quit. Or why is this going on? I thought I did perfect, when there is so much to that specifically. The most accurate time of the day to weigh ourselves is after going to the bathroom in the morning. Just logically speaking, if we are full of water and food, at the end of the day, it's always going to be higher. If we, ate sooner to bedtime and then woke up, yes, we're still going to be holding some of that food, so it's going to be heavier. So, the scale isn't necessarily the be all end all of this. And, if we think it is, that generally does hold us back. And the salad thing specifically, I think that's a really good example because, again, a lot of the time we think that foods are either good or bad, and I either can eat this or can't eat this when I'm going through a fat loss journey, so to speak. And that just isn't the case. It just isn't the case. The reason that we can't eat those for the rest of our lives is because we're not supposed to. Our body wants other things. Our body will crave sweets and things like that. So we should really look to incorporate that in. And basically, what I'm trying to say, guys, is you can lose fat and keep it off for good without sacrificing things that you actually enjoy for life. So now I want to go over the reason that you're here, how to lose body fat for good while eating foods that you love. And the first step that we actually go through here is to quote unquote hack your metabolism. And really what this is we're starting with a maintenance phase. Again, so often, so many of us get that 3 a.m. morning motivation, whatever it might be, kind of that event in our lives, maybe we get broken up with or something like that, or, whatever it might be. Generally there's a reason that we tend to start these things. But again, we just dive headfirst into it. We dive headfirst into restriction. We dive headfirst into doing as much cardio as we possibly can without even thinking about how to actually set ourselves up for success. And setting ourselves up for success is a maintenance phase. And, again, using this athlete as an example, this is our maintenance phase right here, right? We gave his body exactly what it needs to stay the same. Once we have the data on that, we know exactly what to chop, what to take out, and it was just a small amount of food that we took out, not a ton, not, hey, from start to quote unquote from maintenance phase to quote unquote start the fat loss phase. You're gonna eat basically nothing and try to move as much as you can. No, not at all. It might have been a very small amount of food that we really stressed. And I think the biggest jump that we made here with cardio was we added 5 minutes a day. Imagine going from 15 to 20 minutes of walking a day and seeing this type of results because you set yourself up so well in that maintenance phase. That's really what we preach here specifically, because again, we are getting set up for sustainable fat loss. And again, we are planning for adaptations because eating less than nothing is unsustainable. And what I mean by that is if we can keep you well fed throughout your entire journey, you're going to be able to continue that much longer, which means you're going to be able to see that much more results because, again, we got you nice and fed up in the first phase. We set maintenance. And then once we've set maintenance, it's time to enter that fat loss caloric deficit phase where we will be in our in-season fat loss phase. So again, after we've hacked your metabolism, we enter a calorie deficit using a fat loss formula. And what I mean by that is we don't just slash calories. This isn't the typical just subtract 300 to 500 calories approach. That is a weight loss equation, not a fat loss equation. And the reason to articulate why there is a difference there in general is going to be done through the process of understanding just losing weight versus getting lean. Just losing weight, we could lose 20 pounds and look the exact same. We could lose 20 pounds and look skinny fat. If we lose 20 pounds of fat, we are going to actually look leaner. And, in my experience, that's generally what everybody describes when they actually want to lose weight. They want to lose fat. We want to retain muscle. We want to get lean. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to not just cutting out random calories from anywhere, but actually having a formula that we follow, that we teach the athletes inside the program to build a lean physique, not just a skinny fat physique where we don't look different, but we weigh less. So, again, in the in-season fat loss phase, we do not eliminate carbs. We do not eliminate your favorite foods. We do not do excessive cardio, and we do see results. Again, leaning on that formula is so important. Leaning on that formula in the maintenance phase to drive us are two huge things that most people do not do when they're starting their fat loss journeys. And that's why these athletes see results. So, in conclusion, fat loss is not supposed to mean just doing a ton of excessive cardio while starving ourselves. Not sustainable. Fat loss is not just subtracting 300 to 500 calories from anywhere in our nutrition. That's weight loss. It's not age specific, but a lot of the time we hear these things for people who are generally a little bit older, maybe not going to be as active, but generally if we're younger, we do have the ability to get into the gym, to give that effort, and to really do these things specifically here. And again, that's why regardless of age, the formula for fat loss specifically is going to be a lot more effective in building a lean physique as opposed to just losing weight. And assuming that we're all here right now to learn about fat loss specifically, that formula is going to be your best friend as far as this goes. So guys, we can eat foods we love and get lean at the same time. In using that formula, a big part of that specifically is actually doing planned overfeeding. So what that means is I actually will say to my athletes, I want you to have a burger and some ice cream, on this certain date or at this certain time of the week, because we've actually set up your metabolism, set up your program, set up your life at this point to, kind of burn calories very efficiently, to actually require an overfeeding. And that's exactly what we do. So we don't eliminate favorite foods completely. We just say, hey, for example, this might not be ideal to have every single day, but if X, Y, and Z happen as we've programmed it to happen at this specific time, I want you to have an overfeeding. Your body is actually going to burn it up very well. Eventually at some point, we won't even fluctuate in the scale anymore from it. So, guys, favorite foods are absolutely incorporated into this specifically. And the specific foods everyone should eat should look different. And that's why, again, in that maintenance phase, kind of building that case on our individual bodies is so important. So, guys, if you want to learn through experience, click the link down below to start your own journey to becoming unrecognizable while eating foods you love. And I want to say thank you for your time.